Guys, welcome back to another Campfire episode, and today we're gonna dive a bit more into the topic camping. We spent so far well over 1,000 nights.
Which is crazy.
It's over 3 years if you think about it, in our tent all around the world, in Europe, in Ukraine, Russia, Kazakhstan, Mongolia, Southeast Asia, Australia, New Zealand, South America, Central and North America. So we got a bit of experience when it comes to camping, and not only on campgrounds, but a lot or many times just in the middle of nowhere, somewhere out in the bush. So we're gonna talk about our gear, some details on our tent, stove, kitchen setup, mattresses and sleeping bags. And then we talk about the advantages and disadvantages of carrying camping gear on a motorcycle. We tell you our secrets, how do we choose, especially bush camping spots, and one of the probably most important questions, is it safe to camp somewhere in the bush in the middle of nowhere? And at the very end,
well, we share our very personal conclusion if it's actually worth to carry camping gear on a motorcycle or not. And I would say we don't waste any more time. Well, quickly
dive into it. Cheers, guys. Guys, first topic we want to dive into is our camping gear. We talked about it already 2 weeks ago in our last campfire episode. We talked about our tent, we talked about our stove setup. We put your link up here, so make sure to check that out. I just dive briefly again into those items. And since we actually left 15 years ago on our journey around the world, we started with a tunnel tent. And the reason is pretty simple. Tunnel tent offers for us the best size weight ratio. It's actually reasonable light, it packs very small, but it offers an incredible amount of space, of sleeping and luggage space. And that was very important for us because, as we mentioned at the beginning, we spent well over 1,000 nights already in our tent, so it's basically our little home, and therefore we need a good, reliable tent.
But at least as important as a good tent is sleeping bag and sleeping pad. And we carry sleeping pads with I think somewhere between 5 and 7 centimeter thickness. Yeah. That's really great because that allows you to have a quite reasonable, sleeping comfort, and you don't feel every stone when you roll around during the night.
Well, I remember way back on, before we even started the world trip, we've been on a little camping trip, and then we had these little foam mattresses, like, 10 mils thick. You feel every stone, rock, root.
You wake up somewhere in the night.
It's like, bloody hell, what happened with me?
Can't move anymore. Yeah. Well, yes, a good sleeping pad, definitely important, and also a good...
it's an absolute game changer, I have to say.
And a good sleeping bag as well, especially for me. I don't know if it's because I'm a woman or it's just because of me. I get cold during the night really quickly. Even if it's above 0 degrees, I get cold. So therefore, I prefer to have a really warm sleeping bag, even if we don't travel in a super cold condition, because it just adds a little bit more comfort during...
That's the reason why I'm allowed to travel with her. Picking up motorcycle, fixing motorcycle, and keeping her warm during cold nights in the tent. So the honest truth
about why I travel with a man.
Yeah, exactly.
No. Well, my sleeping bag is until I think -10 is comfort, which sounds a lot, but for me that's perfect because it's a really good all
in general.
You
have to say, rather carry a warm sleeping bag and then pack it away if you don't need it, than freezing in cold temperatures because the sleeping bag is too thin.
Yeah, and another important thing with the sleeping bag, our first sleeping bags have been synthetic ones, just because they've been more affordable or cheaper. But to be honest, they pack a lot bigger and they are not as warm, by far not as warm as the down sleeping bags. And therefore we changed to down sleeping bags quite a while ago, and there was a massive game changer. So always buy a good down sleeping bag, and if you take good care of it, it lasts for many, many years.
There is, of course, a little bit more. We have inflatable pillows, for example. For years we slept on our jackets.
Yeah, which worked. It was okay, but it was not super comfortable. And then again, if you don't have a good night, you're not fit the next morning. So since quite a while, we carry this tiny little inflatable pillows, and they make a big difference.
Yeah, and now when we hopefully slept very well, we get up in the morning and no one snored or some sort of animal woke us up or scared us in the middle of the night.
That's another topic.
That happened as well. But we need a coffee for the coffee or generally for the cooking, we have a certain kitchen setup. We talked about our multi-fuel stove in the past episode. Check it out, as we mentioned. So I don't mention too much about it right now. It's a Primus OmniFuel. It basically eats anything. It's super reliable. So we can absolutely recommend.
And we definitely used it for 1,000 times or more on this 1,000 camping nights, and it's still running. So when you take a little bit care of it, you basically have it forever.
But of course we have pots, we have pans, we have cups, we have knives and forks and plates and cutting boards.
For me, very important, because I really enjoy cooking, which you might have realized in some of the 50cc episodes. We really cook even in the remotest bush somewhere. And a good knife, a really good knife, and a wooden cutting board is quite important for me. So as you realize probably, we carry quite an extensive amount of cooking equipment. But like we said before, our tent is our home. We cook almost every night camping, so you really want to enjoy it. You don't want to live out of a...
We love ravioli, but not 1,000 nights in a row.
Yeah,
so that's basically it. So we love to cook fresh and prepare proper meal and a little bit of diversity, basically. So that's very important for us as well. And then, of course, we have headlights. If we do camping in the night, which happens mostly that you camp in the night.
But we have to pitch our camp in the dark.
And other bits and pieces, of course. But I guess we're gonna dive into this topic maybe in a separate episode. Now we carry on.
Yeah. The next topic we want to talk about are the advantages and disadvantages of carrying camping gear. And I think we start with the disadvantages. And disadvantage number one, of course, you first have to spend money to buy your camping gear.
Yeah, and that can get quite expensive. But what you shouldn't forget, it depends on your destination, of course, and the length of your journey. This camping gear is seen as an investment, so it pays off for itself. First of all, you have some of this equipment for basically a lifetime, and second of all, you don't have to pay for so many rooms and hotels, so you basically just pay the money in advance and you get the money back. But as you said already, yep, you have to spend the money first.
Yeah, and second disadvantage, it uses up quite a bit of space in your luggage, and not only space.
Yeah, also a bit of weight, of course, because it's not only the tent, it's not only the sleeping mat, the sleeping bags and the stove and kitchen setup, but also you need food and water. You shouldn't forget that.
And it really quickly adds up.
Yeah, it adds up. It can get
quite heavy. Very heavy.
Depends.
It depends on how long you plan on camping. Yes. So definitely, if you don't plan on staying somewhere out in the bush, really think about if you want to carry camping equipment or if you just want to save the weight and the room for something else.
Yeah, guys, and that brings us to the advantages. Of course, camping has quite a few advantages as well. First of all, well, we love camping. We do not camp in the first place because it's cheaper. Yes, sometimes it helps.
Yeah,
it saves
it helps the budget,
some
definitely.
money. Yeah, that's for sure. But on the other side, we just love camping, being in the middle of nature, somewhere out in the bush. We do not love camping so much on campgrounds usually.
Especially not when they're very packed and very strict. That's,
But somewhere in the middle of nowhere.
Not our cup of coffee.
It's absolutely stunning, and that's basically the topic. It gives us the freedom to stay basically anywhere. If something unexpected happens, we can stay there. If we have a breakdown, we can stay wherever.
If it's just a beautiful place, we can stay there.
If it's just a beautiful place, we can stay there. If we want to do a remote outback or dirt track in the middle of nowhere, Mongolia, whatever, we just stay wherever we find a spot. And that is basically the major topic of camping.
Us a lot of flexibility and
freedom, basically.
Yes.
So we can absolutely recommend to carry camping gear on any sort of motorcycle journey.
And you don't depend on the next village, on the next hotel. You just are more independent.
Yeah, home is where your tent is.
Yeah.
That's basically it.
Definitely it is. At least for us it is.
And that brings us to the next topic. And the next topic is quite interesting.
How do we find home?
How do we find places for our home? Yeah, well, let's talk about that.
Well, to be honest, back in the days, 2011,
things have changed quite a bit since we started traveling, like back in 2000. 11. Go on.
There was no such thing than a camping app or Google reviews about camping or whatsoever.
We didn't have a smartphone. We didn't even have a GPS system that was navigating us through the world. We just had a world map, and there were the main cities all around the world on this world map. And the only thing we could see was if we were riding east,
like an
south,
arrow.
west or north. So that's basically it. No navigation at all.
I mean, nowadays, unbelievable how we actually made it around the world. But
well, we had
it
a
worked.
map. That's old school. It worked.
And well, we haven't bush camped before in Germany. Germany is very crowded. It's very difficult to camp somewhere in the wild here. So the very first time we decided we want to pitch up tent somewhere in the bush was in Ukraine, in the beginning of our world trip. And I can remember, not like yesterday, but quite clear that I've been super nervous.
Oh yeah.
We checked the area, where do we go?
We basically camped outside of a little village, just on between two paddocks.
Yeah, two cornfields, I think. We followed a little track and then decided here's a little clearing, we can hide the tent, we pitch it up here. But the
sun was just setting, so we were a bit of, kind of in a rush, you know, that we get a spot before it gets dark.
But I was so nervous, I could not sleep the whole night. If someone comes, if we get into trouble, I don't know,
upset
all
someone
sorts of,
and so on. There were all sorts of things going on. In the morning, actually, a couple of farm workers turned up, but they didn't bother at all.
No, they were very nice. Just waved at us.
And so, okay. And then we went actually to Russia. And Russia, I can remember the first couple of days we've been to some motorcycle friends, and we asked them, guys, are there campgrounds in Russia? And they were like, what is a campground? And then we explained them the concept of a campground like we have
Germany.
in Europe, you know, with this little lots where you can park your camper van, and then you have like toilets and showers and all that sort of stuff. And they said that they absolutely couldn't understand that concept, because they said if there's a lake, just camp there, go for it.
Yeah, and wherever you want, just pitch your tent. And that's what we did. And in the beginning still, I think the first couple of weeks we've been kind of nervous, but at some point we started to get a gut feeling of what is okay and what not. We just followed some, like I said, some little tracks off the main road or some animal tracks or into the woods, and then wherever we could find a little clearing where we can pitch up the tent and hide the motorcycles and the tent. We gave it a try. Oh.
One thing, of course, we always camped outside of cities, villages or towns, so rather countryside.
Well, that brings us to the safety topic.
Yeah, we talk about it in a minute. Well, and it also depends, I have to mention, which country you're traveling. Mongolia, Australia, Andes region in South America. You know, you basically ride on a track and then you go off 20 meters on the side of the track, you pitch up tent and you just sleep there. That's possible. No worries at all, because there are just not many people. But other countries, you have to put a little bit more effort into it, and then we just tried little paths, tracks, roads.
I think sometimes we found
tracks.
A perfect spot at the first try, and sometimes we had to try 3, 4, or 5 times, hours sometimes, and it was getting dark already, and we just could not find a good place. So that happens as well.
The great stuff was we usually had the place all to ourselves. Nowadays, with this little internet monster thing and apps and smartphones, the world has changed. And nowadays, you have a lot of camping apps all around the world. That makes it very easy. You open your smartphones, and there you can check out bush camping spots other people recommended. So people just picked one spot, and then they did maybe...
If it's suitable, they put it in the app, which is, of course, can come in very handy.
We used it as well. Use it.
But
it comes with a disadvantage.
Yes, we try to avoid it, because a lot of these places get very crowded. A lot of people, unfortunately, leave their crap there. We talked about this in the last episode.
Brings us to the first rule of camping, guys. Always leave the spot as you found it, at least. And what we do usually, we leave it cleaner than we found it.
So if there's some rubbish, we pick it up. Because otherwise the places just get shut down, and that's what no one wants, actually.
But those apps help you to get a bit into this bush camping topic, because you know already what you can expect and so on. But one thing that is very important nowadays, it's super easy to share a pristine spot. So you basically ride down the road, you find a waterhole down there, it's super beautiful, sunset, swimming, so on. No one ever found it before, and then you share it on those platforms, and then usually it gets or often it gets destroyed.
Overrun.
So just be aware. That's something we want to mention at this point. Just be aware what you share. We do not want to say you shouldn't share. Just be aware, not everything needs to be shared. But in general, guys, all around the world, we never had a problem really to camp. We didn't camp so much in Southeast Asia. It's very crowded and you have rather cheap guest houses everywhere. So that was just a bit of a different topic. But other than that, Eastern Europe, Asia, Australia, New Zealand, South America in particular, and of course Central and North America, you always find some sort of camp spot. Might be a proper campground or a bush camp spot. So we never had a problem at all. Yeah. Sometimes it just took some time. But now let's talk about the safety topic.
Yes, because I think a lot of people wonder if it's safe to pitch up tent somewhere in the bush. Every now and then you hear some really bad stories about horrible things that happened, but touch wood, like you said, in over 1,000 camping nights in the last 15 years,
all around the world,
we never had a problem. You can never say never, of course, but I think if you develop a certain gut feeling, you can at least avoid it to a very certain percentage.
Yeah, and I think there are a couple of rules that we followed or we figured out after a while.
Yeah, rule number one.
Yeah, camp on the countryside. People on the countryside are always grounded. They're good people, like...
Avoid camp close to cities.
Major cities, especially. It's all about your gut feeling, and you develop a certain gut feeling. But if you come through a little village, town, and it feels all right, and the people are nice and friendly, then of course you can camp
on the edge of the
village at some spot. No worries at all.
We had both. We felt so welcome that we decided, okay, we camp closer than we normally would, but we also had the opposite. We found a nice place, but somehow it felt weird. It felt a bit off.
Our gut feeling, and that is something we absolutely would recommend. If your gut feeling says, for some reason, that place feels off, don't stay there. So
I would say one thing when I spot, then we normally carry on, is when you spot a lot of empty beer bottles or strong alcohol. So when you see, okay, people come here to drink, to party, that's the places I would rather avoid. And when we found this kind of place, we normally kept going, because it's very likely that people come there and they want to get drunk, and it's drunk
people is never a good company.
No.
But in general, people-wise, in this well over 1,000 years, we never
1,000 years? We were quite old.
1,000 years.
I look pretty good for 1,000 years.
Yeah. She's reasonable in shape. In 1,000 nights, not days, 1,000 nights, we never ever had a problem with people. We listened to our gut feeling.
Also, we listened to the people, the locals.
As well.
Because sometimes they tell you, don't stay in this area, it's not safe there, and then we listen to them and we carry on. Yeah.
Another topic, safety-wise, of course, is animals. Yeah. Many people would be concerned, especially about maybe Australia and Canada, Alaska, let's say, because of bears. But from our experience, for example, in Australia, we never had any sort of trouble with any animal. I mean, Australia is great animal-wise, because as we mentioned earlier, you pitch up your tent somewhere in the bush in the morning, you get out, want to go for a pee, and then there's a bunch of kangaroos over there, or maybe down at the river, 100 meters down there is a saltwater crocodile or emus and whatever. It's absolutely stunning. And if you follow certain rules with those animals, you shouldn't get into trouble.
I wouldn't say never, but it's very unlikely.
Never had any sort of trouble. And we also camped a lot in the bush up in Alaska, Canada, back in 2016. And there are,
bear
of course,
country.
As you know, it's bear country. So wolf and bear country, so it can get quite dangerous. We followed some simple rules there as well, like leaving no food in or close to the tent, no cosmetics and so on. And if we didn't have a good feeling, we had a bear spray as well at this point.
Not true, that would have helped. Go away, bear,
Some
go away.
nights she snored like a bear. I'm not sure if that helped, maybe. No, but as I said, animal-wise, don't be scared. Now, listen to the locals. If the locals tell you, this area is a bit dangerous with animals, do not camp there. And if you have a bad gut feeling, rather go into a campground, check into a motel or anything else and have a safe and a good night than basically risking something. But in general, camping is absolutely safe if you follow the gut feeling, I would say. That's the major thing. Yeah. And that takes us right to the next topic, or the very last topic. Our honest opinion, is it worth to carry camping gear all around the world or to any sort of motorcycle journey?
Well, I think you can guess it by now already.
Yeah.
Yes, for us,
camping
yes,
is a big part for us.
It's definitely. But
it's a must.
You have to be honest, it's not always that romantic. Of course, you only show the really beautiful pictures normally on social media, on the internet, but a lot of times it's just a pragmatic solution. It's hot, it's dusty, it's rainy, it's thousands of mosquitoes.
Well over 1,000 nights in the tent. We had many nights with millions of mosquitoes. It was wet, it was rainy, it was muddy. The stuff, we had nights like when we packed in the morning our camping gear, it looked like a mess. It was like we just throw it in the bin and that's it. That's an experience as well,
it's
of course.
It's part of it.
And many nights are just pragmatic, I would say. You need somewhere to sleep, so you just go off the track, off the road, pitch up your tent, you cook some dinner, sleep there, and the next morning you carry on. But
then there are the other nights.
First of all, the freedom. It gives us the freedom to just stay anywhere. It gives us the feeling of a certain safety, because we can stay anywhere. So if we don't make it to a certain spot, a hotel, a town or wherever, we can just stay anywhere. Same topic if we have
it's a bit of
a
peace of mind, to be honest.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then there are these special spots, and we had incredible spots that
they're worth carrying them.
Absolutely.
Carry the gear all around the world. We slept in the Andes at 5,000 meters.
Salar de
Uyuni,
the whole Milky Way spanning over the
biggest salt lake in the world, I think it is. On 3,500 meters, and it's absolutely silent because there are no trees, no bushes, no nothing. So you don't even hear the wind. You hear nothing. Also sunsets now in Australia, when you see like until the horizon, most
red dirt.
Stunning sunsets.
It's absolutely stunning.
You wake up with the birds chirping.
It's an incredible experience. It's, for us, camping is irreplaceable. There's no question around it. Yeah. So if we go on any sort of trip, the tent
has to come with us, definitely.
Because then it wouldn't be the same trip. Of course, we do like the comforts of a hotel, motel,
every now and then as
Airbnb and so on as well. Yeah. But tent is
definitely a must.
And that's something we can recommend to you guys as well. Of course, we understand. We just recently talked to a guy. He told us he's not a lot into camping, but he only knew the campsite camping we have in our area. And quite often that's a little lot, a green spot where you're allowed to pitch up the tent, and 2 meters away is the next caravan
packed
or what. It's absolutely packed with people and cars and vehicles. So I absolutely understand that you don't enjoy camping. But if you go on a trip and you have a bit of nature around you, take your tent, because you won't regret it.
Give it a try.
It's absolutely memorable.
Yes.
That's pretty much it.
Yeah. Now we're curious because,
exactly.
Like we said, we are absolute camping fans. But what about you guys? Do you prefer the comfort of a hotel every evening, or do you also enjoy camping? Let us know in the comments.
And also the most memorable nights you spent in a tent, maybe because you were scared or because it was funny or whatever.
Because it was great,
so beautiful.
Whatever it is, let us
Put
know.
it down into the comments. And we're gonna see you guys in next week. Oh, well, that's 14 river crossing track.
Oh, there we have a moment where we used the tent because we didn't see it coming that we had to camp right next to the track.
Because we couldn't make the track in one day.
Yes.
So that's next week happening. Was very adventurous. As I said, we had to cross 14 times the same river, and we drowned the bike quite a few times. If we made it to the very end, well, that's something for the next episode. And then 2 weeks time, another campfire. We're probably at a different location. We have a beer again.
Yep.
So
we hope you enjoyed it. We finish our beer now and then
cheers,
sun
guys.
is almost down. Time to head home.
Time
Cheers.
to get home. Yeah. Cheers.